Welcome back to the Medic on the Move YouTube channel, coming to you live and exclusive from the Drury Inn and Suites dining room here in Lafayette, Louisiana. And on this occasion, I'm chatting to another one of the students from the Accelerated Paramedic course, LeeAnn.
Hey, Craig, how are you? I had to mess it up at least once. Every time.
You can call me whatever you like. Call me whatever you like. Now, let's just, before we get on to the paramedic stuff, you have a master's degree in
psychology.
How did that all come about?
So, many moons ago, I started out in pre-law in college. Loved the study of the law, absolutely hated the initial classes that I was introduced to because it was a bunch of old white farts that did not grow with the law that they were supposed to be interpreting and helping evolve with the times. Had my first daughter, moved to Louisiana, ended up in a divorce, ended up working for the state, went to work for the a hospital that's no longer open here, Huey P. Long. Went from there to the local Rapides Parish Health Unit, and just kind of a convoluted path to, I'd always had a calling to help people because of my own background. And I ended up at what we call here an ICF-DD facility, which is an intermediate care facility for people with developmental disabilities, mental retardation diagnoses, and other comorbidities, basically. While I was there, obviously I'd worked in a number of other healthcare settings, but I realized the only way to advance was to go back and finish my bachelor's degree and pick a path. And I've always been called to mental health. It's a huge issue in the U.S. It's a huge issue in my own family. It's something that I dealt with on a daily basis. I was already working within. Went back and finished my bachelor's in general studies with a focus on social sciences, and in the meantime had gotten married, and shortly after had my two youngest children, so big age gap there. And I wanted to be an ATAP, which is an associate to a psychologist, but you have to have a master's degree to do that. My original path was I wanted to get my PhD, and then my ex-husband hit his first major health crisis, and that kind of sent me on a different trajectory. I got my master's degree, worked as an associate to a psychologist. I've worked as a mental health counselor. I have worked as a corporate compliance officer. I've worked every level of mental health except for the PhD, but I've always been supervised by a PhD, a psychiatrist, and LPCS, kind of picky about those, to be honest. But love psychology, but got to where I didn't love the employers anymore. When I left the state, I went into private practices with mental health rehab and things like that. And after several years, had to get out. It wasn't the work. Loved the work. If you put me doing testing and evaluation, things like that, I am in my element all day long. It was the employers that were a problem. So had a interpersonal crisis, again involving my ex-husband and his health, and he may be my ex-husband, but we're very good friends, always have been. And he needed someone to take care of him, and I needed to get out of the mental health care field, so I ended up working in customer service for a while, and ended up segueing that into Acadian quite by accident.
So how do you go from mental health across to, with no jokes, how do you come across to emergency medical services?
What a lot of people probably don't realize is the fields are actually very closely related. There's a lot of mental health calls in the EMS field by virtue of the circuitous path that I took to psychology and now to Acadian. I've worked in healthcare as well in a variety of different capacities, and I've always loved learning. I always wanted to know about why were these reports written? How did you get to the summaries of these reports? What, oh, this equipment is cool. Can you teach me about it? Show me what it's about. Hey, what's that you're doing in that evaluation? And so I've just built up this really crazy set of skills over time. And when I decided that the break for mental health was over, but I couldn't go back into mental health, I initially actually put in for an office position. And Acadian sent me an invitation to do their accelerated EMT program. And I was like,
Sneaky.
they did. Yeah, very sneaky deaky of them. But I bit. I did the program. It was 6 weeks, very, very intense 6 weeks. Had some of the best instructors, and actually got there with flying colors. Did not have to put in as much effort as a lot of students, but I did do the work. And here we are. And so I still use my mental health care skills pretty much every day, and a lot of the other health care skills that I picked up too.
How long ago was the EMT course?
A little over a year ago. I went in, surprisingly, April of 2024, April 29th. I started and I finished on, we took psychomotor and NREMT back to back. And I believe it was the 15th or so was in there, was where we did those two tests back to back, and got my notification of licensure on June 18th, and there she wrote.
What did you think of life on the road as an EMT from where you had come from? Because unlike the we're going to talk about your paramedic class in a minute, you're just a year or two older than, or more mature than some.
I am significantly older than everyone in the
Well,
class.
I can't say that.
No, I can openly admit it. I'll be honest, it was hard at first. The first few months were really difficult, and it's not that I couldn't physically do it, it's that it was back to getting to that level of physical labor. I've always been a very physical person. I grew up working farm work, construction, things like that, because I grew up on a very large property, a farm in Arkansas. And but working in mental health care, not that it's not physical, but it's a different kind and a different level. And of course, me being the brilliant soul that I am, which truck did I volunteer for? I volunteered for the bariatric truck. So I got it double, triple, quadruple time, depending on the patient, because bariatrics is generally people minimum over 350. So I've had people
Pounds, that is.
pounds, yes, and I've had people on the truck near 1,000 pounds, and at one time we actually had two different patients who were around 1,200 pounds each. I had not carried either of those two. That the heaviest I've done was almost 900 pounds, so it was brutal. But once I got into a rhythm and a routine, it was great. It was the best of both worlds. I was very physical. I was back in great shape, lost a lot of weight, still got to use all of my mental health care skills and all of the other health care skills I've learned along the way over the years. And the benefit of my background in it is it's easier for me to meet people where they are. No judgment, no, just I'm going to meet you where you are, and we're going to do this together. You are my patient. You are going to get the best care possible, and I'm going to meet you wherever you are, however you got there. But the first about 3 months was tough. It was tough. Not going to lie.
So you're an EMT working along. When all of a sudden did the idea of, I'm going to do the paramedic course, how did that come about?
I was torn. I knew I wanted to eventually get my paramedic. I had originally thought, well, I'll work on the trucks a little longer. I'll do Barry for a while. And then maybe eventually I'll go to a different truck. Maybe eventually I'll work ALS for a while and then do my paramedic. But I'm not a spring chicken, not getting any younger by far. And honestly, pretty quickly, quite a number of the supervisors and other people that I work with started going, when are you going to get your paramedic? Have you thought about getting your paramedic? So my original game plan was, I'll probably do traditional. I already know the instructors here. I'll fit it into my schedule. And they do. They work with you to fit it into your schedule as far as the classroom materials and all that. But I realized that a part of not getting any younger is also because of my unique path and because of some other factors in my life, I no longer have things to fall back on like other people my age do if something happens. Because I worked for the state for so many years, I'm missing a huge chunk of input into my Social Security because Louisiana for all the years that I worked for them, did not pay into Social Security. They paid into state retirement. I don't have 401k and things like that built up. My two youngest children both have chronic health conditions that are quite expensive, and that sucked all my retirement up. So I was like, you know what? Time's ticking. Got to do something about this.
Time is ticking. We're going to take a break and come back with part 2.